Hey y'all, it's Chris here with Rockin Farm, and we are finally going to talk fall gardening. So we will talk a little bit today about what I actually plan on doing in my garden for this fall, but primarily I just kind of want to touch on fall gardening in general for the majority of the people, I guess, in the South, you could say. We're going to kind of cover like zones 7 through 9-ish when we're talking about fall gardening, because I'm a Central Texas guy, so that's kind of the fall gardening knowledge that I have. I plan on showing you a little bit about how to find fall gardening information for your area. We'll talk about some of the things that can be planted and when they should be planted and how they should be planted. And we will touch briefly on what I plan on doing in my garden for this fall. Before we jump any further into this, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell, and go check out our website, rockin8farm.com. Now, right now, I am out here in my garden because I did want to touch on a few things that we need to look into for the purposes of fall gardening video. But this is one of those scenarios where it's like, quite frankly, I'm embarrassed to have y'all out here. Y'all, my garden looks like garbage. Now, the reason that it looks so bad is because, quite frankly, we have been so busy. We've run into a few different things that have made things a lot busier for us. Number one, we have a lot more animals than we did last year. We have a lot more breeding flocks of chickens. We've got more pigs. There's just a lot going on as far as the animals go. We also pretty much doubled the size of our garden, and then it was more garden than we could handle given our life's circumstances. You see, the garden is really kind of my wife's deal. You know, she really loves plants, and I really like plants almost as much as she does, but the garden's her deal. I really love animals, and she loves them almost as much as I do, but the animals are really my deal. Well, she has been so busy with overtime and family stuff and weddings coming up and personal situations where she's had to go out of town, that she hasn't had a whole lot of time to spend in the garden. And because my time in the garden was always centered around her time in the garden, i.e. we worked in there together, the garden has been very neglected because I haven't taken care of it by myself without her. But I have always said that here at Rockin Farm, I will always show you the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm not going to be one of those types of people that you only see the pretty, shiny stuff on camera. You're going to get to see my mess too, and right now my garden is a mess. We're planning on doing a lot of work over the course of this weekend to kind of get it caught up and looking decent, because we have a wedding in right around a month. And the garden is very close to where, you know, people are going to be sitting and stuff. So we want the garden to look decent. But a big part of us making the garden look decent is just going to be ripping a lot of stuff out and getting a few fall things in the ground. So I want to touch just briefly on our really pretty arch trellises here. What we decided to plant here on the arch trellises this year was these Seminole pumpkins. And y'all, I'm super impressed with these. The main reason I wanted to grow pumpkins was because pumpkins are very good for pigs when it comes to being an anti-parasitic. But the thing that really impresses me about the Seminole pumpkin is that because it is a pumpkin that is native to the South, it doesn't care when it comes to bugs and all of that kind of stuff. Pretty much all of our summer squash was just devastated by vine borers and squash beetles this year. These pumpkins, I will come out here in the morning and look at the flowers and leaves, and I will see that they are just covered in squash beetles. And as you can see, the plants are doing just fine. So it really is a very resistant to pests and diseases that are common here in the southern United States, because there's places in Florida where you can see this just growing naturally and wildly all over the forests and areas like that. But pumpkins aren't really something that I would consider a fall, gardening planting. We plant them in the summer, they harvest in the fall. So again, that's not really what we're talking about when we're talking fall gardening. We're talking more about either second runs of summer vegetables or vegetables that do better in cooler weather. Now, my main plans for the vast majority of my garden for this fall is that those long beans, those Chinese noodle beans and stuff like that, I have so much seed, it's absolutely ridiculous. My plan is to take a ton of that seed, spread it in my beds, water it very well, take good care of it, let the beans go absolutely nuts. And then when we hit that first frost and they all die off and they've been affixing nitrogen into the soil for the last month and a half, then I'm going to take all of that wilted dead foliage, fold it up on top of the beds, cover it in wet cardboard, throw a tarp over it, and just leave it alone until I get ready to plant in it next spring, when it should be very beautiful, nitrogen rich, organically composted, heavy on the organic material beds that should just be great and ready for spring planting. Now, the main focus of this video is going to be Central Texas Zone 8 because, well, that's where I live. But if you live in another state or if you live in another growing zone, do not fret. You can do the same thing that I do, which is go over to the webpage of your local agricultural extension. Here's how you do that. All right, so the first thing we will do is we will type in here Arizona Agricultural Extension and we'll get our Google results. Click on the one for the University of Arizona. That will take us to their cooperative extension page, and in the search box we will simply type fall garden planting calendar. There we go. And you can see that we come up with a vegetable planting calendar. Click on that. And there are some dates and vegetables and all that good stuff. Now let's try the Georgia Agricultural Extension. Extension. Search. Here we go. University of Georgia Cooperative Extension. Click on that. Have that take us to their webpage for the University of Georgia Extension Office. Same thing, search box, fall planting calendar, and search. Okay, and here we go, vegetable garden calendar. So click on that link and we're going to be able to see that it divides it up into months. So what vegetables you want to plant on which months, September, October. There you go. Whether you live in Zone 4 or Zone 10, you can see there is a place where you can go to get information about what you should be planting and when you should be planting it, whether you should be starting it from seed or, starting it in advance inside your house and then transplanting the transplants. There is information out there for you. But now let's talk fall gardening, Central Texas. All right, this is the calendar from the Texas A&M Agricultural Extension. We're going to come back and talk about this more in a second, but you can see how it's divided up into zones. So let's take a look at this. This tells you what the zones are and what the, like Zone 3, and that's the area that Zone 3 is, which is basically USDA Zone 8. So this little graphic here, you can pause these graphics during my talk here and read them a little more closely. But this one talks to you about what can be planted that is going to be killed off by the frost and what can be planted that is going to make it through frost. So let's go back to the calendar. And we can see here that it's just divided up into, beans, broccoli, cabbage, etc. And like for me, I'm region 3. So, September 1st for Brussels sprouts. Right now we're sitting on like September 10th-ish, so I'm a little late, but we might still be able to get them in the ground just fine. You'll notice that this is talking about starting these from started plants, not from seeds. So theoretically, you got to back it up 6 weeks, and that's when you should have started your Brussels sprouts or should have started your broccoli. And if you didn't, that means you're running to the big box store and picking up some broccoli that's already started and ready to go in the ground. Again, if you look back a little bit, you will see that, like the region 2, that's just more like your zone 7, and then your region 4 is more like your zone 9. So again, this is Texas, but it can be applied to other areas that have similar USDA growing regions. All right, well, so I mean, there's your list for, Texas in general, but you can also just kind of look at it as kind of a zone 6, 7, 8, 9 perspective, regardless of where you're at in the country. For if you watch the video through its entirety, you can pretty much just like 2 weeks for every zone. Like if something said that it was supposed to go in zone 8 on September 1st, then you would back it up to August 15th for zone 7, August 1st for zone 6, etc. Same thing the other way. Add a couple of weeks if you're in a zone 9 or a zone 10. If you missed a window and it's only been a couple of weeks, like for example, here in Central Texas, it's still really hot right now. So if it said September 1st, I'm probably still good until about the 15th or the 20th to go ahead and get it in the ground. We're starting to get some cooler nighttime temperatures, but it's still really hot during the day, which can really cook these little seedlings. So pay attention to your weather. The calendars are just a suggestion. They're not a dead set rule, but they are kind of based on information that has proven pretty positive during the past. Again, what am I doing here in my Central Texas garden for fall? Well, I'm really trying to take the fall and winter off. I want to focus on my orchard and all of the fall and winter type work that goes into an orchard, which is a lot. That's when a lot of pruning and planting and bare root trees and stuff like that occur, is during the fall and winter months. I want to focus a lot on the animals and infrastructure for the animals, so I don't want to have to worry about a garden too much. By and large, what we are going to do is apply nutrient, affix nitrogen, cover and compost in place, and get all of our beds ready for spring. The beds that I do plant, it's really just wedding focused. It's let's get a few plants in the ground in these beds that are closest to the wedding so that something is in the ground and it looks pretty, and then we'll reap whatever harvest we get out of that project. So broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, maybe like some rainbow kale, or just stuff that has some color. The pumpkins are up there and they're doing good. So that's it. I'm gonna put in some pretty stuff for the wedding, and then that whatever we are able to harvest off of making the garden pretty for the wedding, that's going to be the totality of our fall planting here at Rockin Farm. I hope you found this video to be informational. I hope you found it to be helpful. Once again, we're getting really close to that 1,000 subscriber mark, so anything you can do to help us out would be greatly appreciated. I want you all to take care. Don't be afraid to try. Get that stuff in the ground and grow your own food. This has been Chris with Rockin Farm. Until I see y'all again, be happy and live healthy.